system on mine. As everybody clicks, got it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Ugh.
Hey, you guys like my old shirt?
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
that is an old one.
Classic.
Hi.
Oh, boy.
Alan, how old is that?
Well, look at the computer on the back.
I guess it is 90s sometime.
Yeah. I just was putting it on I was painting my shed outside today, and I didn't want to get anything on anything good, so I pulled this on to work outside.
Is that about a
No,
quadrant?
no, not that.
Obviously, he doesn't have that
800,
high
something
opinion
like
of us.
that?
Well, I think they told us after we did this that this wasn't legal.
It is not.
No. So, because
What's
it's got
not
the
legal,
Apple logo.
the logo?
We can't use the Apple logo on any of our literature.
No, that's
Well,
true.
I think it's funny because for the most part, they just ignore that we even exist.
Right. Oh, well, this was back in 95 we did it, something like that. And I think somebody told us by 97 or something, we shouldn't have done that.
Oops. Sorry.
You can only use their official, like on our website, there's one Apple, and that was officially from Apple.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they even enforce anything like that anymore.
Like I said, I don't even think they pay attention to user groups anymore.
No, nobody.
Not that they did that much in the past, but
Well, there's a user group thing that sends out discounts all the time and things like that. You've seen that, haven't you?
Yeah,
You-
that's the Berkeley user group.
The what?
The Berkeley. Isn't that the one that sends out the discounts?
No, I don't think
Isn't that the
so.
big one on the West Coast? Is it Berkeley?
Well, monthly, I get a email from Apple with various discounts and suggestions for meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're still sending those
never
out.
seen any of that stuff.
When I was in Apple Jacks, we used to get monthly, and I can't remember now. I think they were CDs, not DVDs. And one of them came one time, and it said, "Here's a bunch of interesting things you can do with FileMaker, FileMaker Pro, not FileMaker. I'm sorry, PageMaker." And oh, if you don't have one, here's a copy of PageMaker. Well, my jaw dropped to the ground. I put the thing in, and it was a legal copy of PageMaker or whatever version it was. Then I wanted version 5. And I took to that thing and I started making a newsletter for, that was a group that I was in before joining GAMUG.
Right, I remember.
So
We're all
I couldn't believe this. Say, here's a bunch of templates you can use in PageMaker. And oh, by the way, here's PageMaker. It was, like I say, it was a free copy, fully functional, not dumbed down, no 30-day time bomb or you have to pay for it sort of thing. It was just a gift. Well, thank you very much. So I took it and run.
I have not heard of PageMaker in a long time, and I used to use that a lot. I used to publish some newsletters with it, but that's a blast from the past there, John.
It is.
I don't know when quit making that.
The print shop that I work part-time in, where Alan was a consultant, used Quark Express. So the lady there convinced me that I couldn't use PageMaker. I had to use Quark Express because that's what they use there. So I reluctantly gave up PageMaker and went to Quark, which I didn't. Yeah. I thought PageMaker was one of the easiest, most intuitive programs ever, not to mention being very powerful, for desktop publishing. So I kind of regret not having it.
When did they quit making that? Anybody know?
Well, no, it sort of got absorbed into Adobe's Creative Cloud, and I think it got I forget which of the applications in the Creative Cloud sort of took it over. I can't remember the name.
InDesign.
Probably InDesign, yeah.
Yeah, because I've got the Adobe Creative Suite that I use.
So I think PageMaker morphed into InDesign. And then of course, then, it was, well, Glenn, as you well know, you pay your money or you don't take your chances.
Yeah, I just hate that everything's subscription based now.
Well, that's how they get you.
Yeah.
Okay, guy, I'm gonna get started with our meetings. Let's see. John's here, our president. Steve Maynard, first vice president. Glenn House is our second VP. Alan Thorpe is our treasurer. And I'm Ron Miller, I'm the secretary, and I take care of the website. Let's see.
Engine that keeps us going.
We try. June 28th, last Wednesday, was Apple Professionals. There's a link on our website. Upcoming meeting, July. We only have one thing listed so far, and that is Clockology app and custom watch faces, which Glenn has dealt with and will tell us about. And then Watch OS 10, which came out in this past WWDC meeting, but we'll talk about it more then. Next thing is our awards program concludes this evening. So at the end of tonight's presentation, we will pull names, and four lucky people will win $100 Apple gift card, which Alan will send out by email. What else? Well, that's it so far. Any questions or tips you want to share with the group?
Nothing.
Somebody told me they had a question. I forget who.
Yeah, sorry, I had to unmute myself. I found out something recently that I, for one, didn't know that I'd like to share with the group. I got my driver's license renewed, and I found out that when the thing came in the mail, it came along with this notice that says announcing something called MID, or Missouri ID. Now, I know that several states have made available a driver's license that you can actually have on your phone, a digitized license. And apparently Missouri has joined the club, because this is what it said. Mobile ID is an optional, secure, digitized version of your Missouri-issued driver's license, non-driver identification card, or permit that you access through a secure app on your smartphone. Download the app, verify your identity, and you'll be able to display and share your ID whenever you need to prove your identity at participating locations. And I will put in the notes here the URL that you can go to on your phone, of course, to download the app. And
John, do you know
There
when
it
they
is.
started that?
no, I don't. This was, this just came to me out of the blue. Can everybody see that URL? I put it in the meeting chat.
Yeah. I
Okay.
was literally just looking to see if Missouri did this just like, I don't know, maybe a month or two ago, and I didn't find that we were listed for it.
I
No,
looked
no,
about
John,
a
you
week-
said that's an app you had to download? So
Yes.
it's not actually going into the wallet app on the,
No, it's a separate app.
okay, so Missouri isn't part of that wallet system.
So I guess technically speaking, you're right. You're right. It's not that you can't use it through the wallet app like you can on the other ones, but it is a version of, it's something similar to that. So at least if anybody wants to have their Missouri issued identification card, again, it doesn't have to be a driver's license. If you want to have that on your phone, download the app, follow the instructions on how to do it. It's too bad it's not available through the wallet. That would have made it a lot more convenient, but it's something.
That's the
I
way the rest of the states.
Probably will get there eventually, my guess is, but now my question is, can anybody do that? Do they charge a fee for
No, it
doing
was free.
it? Or-
When you go to that URL, it will take you to, I want to say Vimeo, but I'm not, yeah, I think it was
Takes
Vimeo.
it to the Missouri Department of Revenue page.
Yeah,
And on that, you can click on driver license.
Yep.
And there's a pull down menu. And near the bottom, it says Missouri Mobile ID.
and then that takes you to, I think it's Vimeo, where you watch a short video on how the thing works. And then what I had to do separately from that was just go to the App Store and then just look for a Missouri ID, and I found the app and downloaded it.
Everything is
and so does it work? Have you tried it?
I just installed it. It was about 9 o'clock at night, and I didn't want to go through all the rigmarole, so I just put it on the phone, and I thought I'll do it sometime when I'm more awake. So
Well, let us know how that works.
Yeah.
Later on, I'm gonna download that myself though.
Yeah, it's worth checking out at least.
Well, none of us need to prove that we're over 21 anymore, so I
Yeah.
have, I haven't pulled my license out in a long time. Well,
I'm insulted.
It's in the wording. It's interesting. They say, yeah, the Missouri Department of Revenue encourages residents to always carry their physical card while driving, so it can be used in interactions with law enforcement during traffic stops or incidents, and at locations that have not opted to accept a mobile ID. So you might
the
put the thing
police-
out to try to use it in some places, and they'll say, "Sorry, you got to see the real card." Well, okay, I still got the real card. So this is not a replacement for your physical driver's license card or whatever other ID you might be using.
Okay, any
Cool, thank
other questions or comments out there?
I see if you have a change of address that you can just have the new license with your new address on it. That doesn't apply to most of us, but that's interesting. Useful. Thank you, John.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
It looks like we have a guest this evening. Glenn, you want to introduce?
Well, my father has joined us here. And all the way from Costa Rica, by the way.
Cool.
So I had put out so the officers we talked, both Ron and I have put out. I just put out stuff on my Facebook feed and some St. Louis area groups about our group, and told people to come check us out. And I know Ron did that as well. So I know that's where my father got the link from. So although Don, if you're there and want to say hi, you may.
Hello, everybody. Just curious to what it was. So I'm just listening.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
By the way, I think he wins the award for joining us from farthest away, is my guess.
Yeah, he displaces the guy from Canada that we had a few months back.
Okay, any other questions or comments out
I have
there?
a question for the group.
Okay,
Does anybody have a Mac Studio computer?
I do.
I'm curious, how much do you notice the fans when the computer is idle?
I never hear it. Even when I'm running things.
Mhm.
In fact, it comes out in the back, and like right now, I barely feel any air coming out of there at all.
What configuration did you get?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
SSD and RAM options?
I'd have to look into the thing because I don't remember.
Okay, that's fine. Don't worry about it.
No,
I
I
have
just
one also.
truly don't remember.
I
Don't
have
worry
one
about it.
also.
Here when it first came out.
I've also got one, and I've got the basic configuration with a 2 terabyte drive, and I don't hear the fans.
No,
So
it's
you can read a lot
amazingly
about all
quiet.
the noise they make, but that's not been my experience.
Terry, are
Thank
you having issues with hearing the fan a lot?
I didn't buy one yet. I'm thinking about buying the M2 model.
Well, I can tell you, Terry, it is extremely quiet, and I'm sure there's a fan in there, but I never hear it.
I got to tell you, with these new Apple M1 and M2 chips, from what I've kind of read and I've tried as well, it's hard to stress these chips out. I mean, I've got the M1 MacBook, and after I bought this, I tried and tried and tried to see if I could really put it under stress. And I mean, I would put the most heavy duty software I had running and keep piling more things going. And I never, ever, ever was able to get the fan to come on.
You mean you wouldn't hear the fan if you run handbrake to recompress a video?
Nothing. Never. That I have not heard the fan once in the year and a half I've had this computer.
And Glenn, that is a 16-inch model, correct?
Yeah, and I've got the M1 Max chip in here.
So that means, but being a 16-inch means that you've got a lot of mass there. So
Yeah.
that can act as a pretty big heat sink. I wonder, hypothetically, if you had the same configuration in a 14-inch, which would not be as big enough a heat sink, might you have the fans coming on more than they are with a 16-inch?
Certainly possible. I obviously can't speak to that since I don't have a 14-inch, but yeah, I just, like I said, that's because my old MacBook Pro that I had, you know, before the M1 chip came out, that fan would go on, you know, fairly regularly. And so it's been a world of difference.
See, what I'm getting at, Terry, is we've got Ron's testimony and Frank's testimony that the Studio, which is a fairly massive computer, certainly compared to a Mac Mini, is not generating a whole lot of fan noise. And my theory, for what it's worth, is that there's enough mass in that computer that it acts as a pretty good heat sink, and therefore the fans don't need to come on very often unless you're really working it hard. So if the concern is that you're reluctant to get one because of fan noise, I'd say based upon what the theoretical argument that I just made and their own real world experience is, you probably have very little to worry about.
Actually, I was thinking about whether I wanted a mini, M2 mini, or an M2 Studio. And I was just seeing some stuff on the internet. Some people were noticing the fan on the Studio, but of course they were talking about the M1 Studio because nobody has the M2 Studio in their hands just yet, I don't think.
Yeah, Terry, I looked at mine. I have an M1 Max chip in it, and it's 64 gigabytes of memory.
Frank, is your Studio an M1 or an M2?
M1.
It's M1, okay.
M2
Yeah.
just came out last week in the Studio.
It's actually a refurb M1. Nice discount. Well, it's 10% now. It used to be 15, but they changed their refurbs to just be 10% on the M1s. Max Tech, Maxtech, did a whole series of YouTube videos some months ago comparing all the M1s, including the 14-inch MacBook Pro with the Pro with a Max chip. And you might look at those, Terry. They really tax both of those with about a 25 minute videos they did, and they're very good. And they have comments on the fans in that. So Maxtech.
Well, can you put the link in the chat?
Yeah, if I knew how to, yeah, I'll try to do that.
Okay, then if we're ready to move on, Glenn is going to present his goodies for the month.
All right.
Are you ready, Glenn?
Yeah. Give me a second to pull this up here. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Obviously, I think you guys can tell where my brain's at right now with my background here. I'm retired. I'm ready for a beach, and so some of this actually was left over from May because we ran out of time. So I repurposed a little bit of this and added some new stuff here. So, all right. So the first thing I'm going to start with this month is I don't know how many of you are aware or use kind of Apple Maps and Calendar together, but there's a real nice integration between the two if you put enough information when you add something to your calendar. So whenever you put an event in your Apple Calendar, if you add the location to the event, it will actually add a map and weather information for the events. And so, if you actually go to Apple Maps now and look up the place you're going, it's going to show your information on Apple Maps with that. Has anybody done that before and experienced that? Know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's a nice little feature. And like I said, I'm not sure how many people realize it exists. So so if you go into, and I just took something in my calendar from this spring, it was a track meet that I had scheduled. And so I put that it was at Parkway South High School, and of course it'll automatically find the address there for me. And you can click that and I add that to it. And so you know, basically when you're adding your information in, for those of you who don't know how to do that, you know, when you do a new event in calendar, and I usually do this more on my Mac than I do on my iPhone, but you can do it either way. There's a little field right below the title. And in that field, you can see the title is Glenn Track at Vicky Reeves Invitational. And then right below that, I typed in the location. As I started typing in Parkway South High School, it found, you know, that down there, and I clicked on the address to add that. So that added that in, and it'll usually make suggestions for you when you put a location in. It can be a business, it could be an address, you know, things like that, and it'll find it. If it can't, you might have to add it manually. It just depends on where you're going. So once I do that, you will then see in the window there, it gives the information, and you'll see there's a little map that's added. And this is all in the Apple Calendar app. So you can see the little map that it added there, and it knows, you know, when I'm going and everything. So now once you've got that in there, if you go to Apple Maps, and here's a screenshot, I went to Apple Maps, and that's, excuse me, yeah, Apple Maps, and I'm looking there at Parkway South High School, and I put in the box there in yellow. You can see that it's, you know, says Glenn Track Meet at Vicky Reeves Invitational at 9 a.m. and it's giving the location. So it's integrating maps and calendar there. And so it's a really nice feature to use, especially maybe if you don't know where you're going and you kind of got to figure it out along the way how to get there. But you got to make sure you're adding those details to the things that you add to calendar for it to be able to do that.
Glenn,
Yeah.
Not long ago, we were meeting some friends at a restaurant that we weren't familiar with.
Okay.
And we put, you know, dinner with the Crandalls, had put the date and time and all that. And I put the name of the restaurant, and it found it and brought up the map that you described, and maps gave directions to it. And you can also click on an info button, and one of the options is to add the contact information to contacts.
Yes, yeah, it's very seamless.
Glenn, did it also give you the weather anticipation or what?
Yeah, it can do that as well. It can do that, and I think maybe Steve can trying to remember my memory without having to look something up here. I think it actually did that in calendar, not map. Steve, do you remember? Do you know?
I think it was in calendar.
Yeah, I think that's where you see it. Yeah.
It was just a very quick weather report.
Right.
Temperature, whether it was raining or clear or whatever.
Which is very handy, especially if you've got an outdoor event that you're doing.
Right.
For
Yeah,
sure.
so it's a nice integration, but like I said, you've got to put in some of the details in Apple Calendar to start with, because that's how it gets that information. So sometimes if you just take an extra second, instead of just putting the event and the time, you know, if you put the place and things like that in there, then you'll find these little extra features will work for you. And it's a nice little feature. All right, the power of the option key. You know, there are, I don't know if you guys realize how many things that you're able to do out there with the option key on your computer. And I don't think too many people think much about it. And, you know, I came across a couple different articles. This was about a month or two ago. And I was like, you know, I forget just how many things you can do with the option key, because, you know, it's not something I think about a lot. And so it's kind of stuck down there on the bottom of your keyboard between your control and command keys. We also sometimes refer to it as the Alt key. And so you don't use the Option key alone. It doesn't really do anything by itself, but there's a ton of combinations to launch all kinds of different actions with the Option key. And so I picked out just some useful ones that I use. I found this article. It's called 80 Shades of Option Key. And you can see I put the address here for you. And I just picked out some of the useful ones on this list that I know that I use that I think are great. So I'll just cover some of those for you. So some things in the Finder window. The first thing is if you've got a big cluttered desktop and you got a lot of windows open and you want to get rid of the windows, if you press the Option key and you close the window by clicking on the red button on the window, it'll actually close all of the windows. And instead of the red button, if you click the yellow button to minimize it, it'll just minimize all of the windows instead. So, and this works with most apps you'll find as well. But it's a great way of quickly decluttering your desktop because sometimes it's easy when you're working to start piling all these windows on. And then, you know, I don't know if you guys ever do this, but sometimes I go, oh, I'm in this application, I just hide it because I want to get to my desktop. I'm like, oh, there's something behind it. Oh, I got to hide that. And all of a sudden I've got 4 or 5 layers of things that I've got to go through. So this is just a quick little way that you can kind of declutter and close all the windows that are open. A next little handy thing is to duplicate a file or folder. If you drag and drop a file or folder while you're pressing the Option key, it'll duplicate it on that same volume wherever you're in, whether it's, you know, you can do that in a desktop or within Windows. So if you drag or drop that while you're pressing the Option key, you now can duplicate that. I mean, there's always the Command D option as well, but this is just a little easy way to do it. Display the user library folder. For those of you who are sometimes trying to find files or fix things, and you realize that when you go up to your menu, you don't always have the library menu there. And so you've got to press the Option key while you're clicking on the Go menu on your Finder. And now library will appear in that drop-down list. If you're not pressing Option, library doesn't appear. I don't know how many of you have used that, but I probably have used that 1,000 times when I'm trying to find a file within the library folder or I'm having a problem I'm trying to diagnose, because a lot of those files are within the library menu or library folder within that menu. All right, some things to do with menus and preferences. So if you want more information about your Wi-Fi, so you've got the Wi-Fi menu. If you're on your Mac there, you look up top. It's usually, if you've got it set up in the upper right on your menu bar. And if you click on the Wi-Fi icon while you're pressing the Option key, it's going to have a drop-down menu of all kinds of additional information about the airport network in use. And we'll talk about the channel and signal strength and ID and all kinds of additional stuff. So if you're working with Wi-Fi or you're having some problems or you're trying to, you know, configure things differently, that's an easy way to get more information about what's going on with your Wi-Fi network. And it's just a much quicker way to look at that stuff. Also, you can open preferences like in system monitors, sound, mission control, other Apple system type things. So if, for instance, if you press the Option key with the keyboard brightness key, it'll open the monitor system preference, and you can now be looking at your monitor preferences because that's where you would find brightness. Same thing if you use the volume keys, it will open the sound system preferences for your Mac, because it assumes if you're dealing with volume, then you want to deal with the preferences to do sound on your Mac. You know, if you're dealing with the monitor and the brightness, that it would deal something with your monitor system preferences. So that's a way that you can get those preferences open real easily to have further control of things that you're looking at. You can change the sound input or output via the sound menu. So you've got the little sound menu. Probably you'll find it up again in the upper right on your menu bar. And if you option click on the sound icon in the bar, it'll give you the option to change which input or output you're using. And I know that is really handy for me. Going back to last summer when I was demoing a lot of the instrument stuff that I was doing, I'm having to change that output. So that's a quick way to do that without having to go all the way into my system preferences to the sound preferences. I can do it right there. Okay, some things in Safari. You can download a file in Safari. So if you click on any link in a web page with the option key pressed, you'll download that file directly to your desktop or wherever your download files are located. If you want to delete history but not your site data, you can, with the option key pressed, click on the history menu, and clear history becomes it'll become clear history but keep site data. So in other words, what happens there is you'll keep the cookies that allow you to be able to connect, and now you don't have to go back up and look up your password and things like that, but it just deletes the history. But going to that site will be deleted from your history. Close all the tabs except for the one in use. So if you press the option key while clicking the close button of this tab, it'll close all other tabs. And so it's a quick way. Again, it was sort of like closing all these windows. You know, if you've got all these tabs open and you want to get rid of them, rather than, you know, kind of going to each tab and clicking on these, just do the option click to close, and it'll close all the ones except the one that you're working in. Let's see, I think I've got one or two things in calendar here. So you can adjust the schedule to the quarter of an hour in calendar. And I don't know how many people know that. I think people are used to doing it on the hour or half hour. But when you have the information panel about like an appointment or something scheduled, you click on the arrows indicating the time and when it ends with the option key, and you can now adjust that by a quarter of an hour. And so it's a way to easily do that. You can adjust that. Accept all notifications at once. So I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I'll get all these notifications on my Mac, and it's like I've got all these things that I got to go through. And if you've got multiple notifications displayed in notification view, just press the option key and it'll just hit OK all, and boom, they're all blown out. Instead of, I know sometimes I've just got to click through all these things to get rid of them, and I'm not really that interested in them. Okay, useful things in Notes and other text-based applications. I use this one quite a bit in Notes, especially if I've got a list of things to do. If you place your cursor somewhere and you press the option key plus the V key, V as in Victor, it'll create a check mark. So I do that quite a bit when I have lists of things I'm trying to do that, okay, I know I've checked that off, so that check mark becomes handy. I also, this is another one I use quite often if I'm talking about the temperature. If you place your cursor, you want to press the option plus the shift plus the 8 key, and you'll get the little degree symbol there. So that's one that I also use quite often. Now, if you're in an Apple product, you can actually make the little Apple symbol. Put your cursor where you want to, press option, shift, and K, and you'll get that little Apple symbol somewhere. By the way, this will only work in Apple products. Not surprisingly, you can't go into like Microsoft Word and do it there. They don't really take too kindly to you doing that, I guess. All right, so there's the option key.
I got one more, Glenn.
What's that?
I got one more option thing.
Okay.
I use it all the time, but maybe nobody else does. But if you hit the option key under this, I guess it's the edit menus for saving, you'll get save as.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do that all the time because especially with stuff for the club.
You know, there are, if you guys actually go and try to look up like, what are all the things I can do with the option key? I think there are literally hundreds of things that you're going to find out there.
Yeah.
So
for
that's just
sure.
a very small sampling, but it really is amazing all the different things that you can do with it.
The option key will also, if you hit option asterisk, it turns it into a bullet instead of a little star.
Okay,
Oh, cool.
that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, there's a ton of them. I feel like I need a cheat sheet of all these different things you can do with them.
Well, like you said, you get used to the ones that you want to use all the time, and then it's no
Yeah.
problem remembering.
Yeah, because if you do something all the time, it's like anything, you're going to remember it. But and those are great suggestions you guys have chimed in with. Those are all good ones as well. All right, the next thing here is, there's some really cool things you can do with Apple Messages and things that I'm not sure a lot of people know about. And so I thought I'd share. I've got just a very short video here. I thought I'd share with you this is through Cult of Mac, and I'm going to share this here.
Every once in a while, a new report will come out saying that iPhone users are biased against Android users, all because of iMessage. And you know what? They're right. iMessage is the best. There, I said it. Today, I have 5 pro tips all about iMessage. Number 1 is that you can actually use bold text at the top of a message. You go to Settings, iMessage, and you check this box that says Show Subject Field. Anything you put in the subject field will appear in bold at the top of the message. Now, it does mean that you can only add bold text at the top of a message, not anywhere in the middle, but it is a good way to get a sense of urgency or importance. Number 2, you can create a custom vibration pattern for different contacts in your phone. So when your phone's in your pocket, you can tell who's texting you just by the pattern. From any contact page, tap Edit, Text Tone, Vibration, Create New Vibration. You just tap on the screen with whatever pattern you want, and then you hit Stop. If you want to do over again, you just hit Record. Whenever you're done, you hit Save, and you give it a name. I encourage you to keep it short and sweet. If it's too complicated, it'll be hard to recognize and it'll get annoying in your pocket. Number 3, you can eliminate all the junk from your messages list, from robotexts, verification codes, anybody not in your contacts. You just go to Settings, Messages, and check Filter Unknown Senders. Now, when you swipe back on your messages list, you can swipe back again, and you can pick by different categories. You can see everything at once, just like it used to be. You can just see people in your contacts, just see the unknown senders, and even filter out by spam. It'll automatically clean up your messages list for you. Number 4, you can clean up the iMessage app list. Now, the iMessage App Store is, of course, famous for being the place where you go to download Game Pigeon so that you can play pool with your 12-year-old nephew instead of talking to people at the family reunion. But there's a bunch of other apps and stickers and crap that nobody else ever uses in there. So you're going to want to scroll all the way to the end and tap More, and then you tap Edit on the top of the screen. You hit the minus sign.
It's way better than a stack of apps
that you never use, and you can just untoggle the rest. That way, you just have the button for your photo library and the 2 or 3 things you might actually want to use. Number 5, you can draw on a video as you're recording it. This is an evolution of a feature called Digital Touch for the Apple Watch that nobody ever used. But you tap on this icon right here, and then you can start recording a video. And as it's going, you can doodle on it with your finger. It's actually a lot of fun, and it can be kind of practical too. If you're sent to the store to pick something up, you can just draw a question mark or do little circles or arrows or annotate it however you want. Those are all 5 of my tips, but there's one more thing. You can iMessage from a Windows computer. Kind of. If you're running Windows 11, open the Phone Link app, and you can pair your phone to your computer over Bluetooth. It'll receive all of your incoming notifications, and you can respond to some text messages. It has some downsides, though. It'll only show the messages that come in while your phone is connected, not the whole history. You don't do group chats, and you can't send pictures or videos. But if you're at work, it's a good way to quickly respond to texts from your phone. So those are all of my tips. I'm D. Griffin Jones with Cult of Mac.
I really like some of these little kind of things because I think as Apple's apps have gotten more complex, there are always a lot of kind of hidden things in there that some are more well known than others, but there's so many things that these apps do that we really don't even know they do. So hopefully you found 1 or 2 of those things interesting in there. that you might be able to do with messages that is handy. By the way, actually the one where he said making patterns for vibration for certain people that are texting you, that's been around for quite a while, because I remember doing that. I bet this is 7-8 years ago. Although I quickly found I didn't find it that useful. Just because trying to make all these different vibrations for different people, and then you're trying to remember which one's which and everything. So I kind of abandoned that whole thing.
Every once in a
All right. I came across this article, and this was something I had for the May meeting that I thought was actually kind of humorous. So I thought I would share it with you guys. The most confusing or misused emojis. First thing I guess I should ask, do you guys use emojis?
Yes.
Occasionally.
Okay. Well, I think there's actually out there, and I don't know if you guys have ever read stuff and people posting about this, that there's a lot of debates about what certain emojis mean, and people are a little confused by them. So this language learning platform called Preply, which I've never heard of, they were trying to figure out the most confusing and misused emojis by Americans. And so they surveyed 1,001 Americans for this, and they found that 78% of the people have been confused by someone else's use of an emoji. And 1 in 3 have seen a misinterpreted emoji create some kind of uncomfortable situation. I can say I've misinterpreted emojis. I can't say it's ever made me feel uncomfortable. And evidently friends are most likely to use emojis in confusing ways. So I guess that makes sense, because you're probably not using emojis with people you don't really know, my guess. So anyway, they ranked, they actually did their top 25, and I just thought I'd do the top 10 with you guys. So little crowd interaction here. What do you guys think this one means? I'm gonna have you guys do this with me. It makes it more interesting.
She's a waitress that dropped her.
Waving hello.
Steve, what did you say?
She's a waitress that
Whatever.
dropped her tray.
That's a good one. I've never heard that one before.
Surprise.
She's saying, I don't know.
Well, you could see that 35% of the people say it's someone being sassy, 31, I have a suggestion, and 21 feeling sarcastic. The actual official emoji title is woman tipping hand. I don't know if that means she was wanting a tip. So I'm not exactly sure if that's what that means.
Yeah, I
All
don't
right,
know
number
what that would mean
2.
either.
Anybody want to guess?
You're wasting your money.
Okay.
Yeah, losing money.
Okay. Well, it's the emoji title's money with wings, and 40% thinks it means gaining money. 34% think losing money, 20% transferring money, and 18% flaunting wealth. So there's a little confusion. Is it incoming or outgoing? Number 3.
Putting on nail polish.
Well, going for the obvious one there, I guess.
Boring.
So it's nail polish. And so, I like this one because some 43% say, oh, it's a classy kind of bourgeois thing, but 40% are like, well, it's just nail polish. Like, I think that's because I guess that's what I would have said too. All right, number 4.
Somebody
Crazy.
on-
Head over heels.
Distress.
I got forehead wrinkles.
I like that, Ron. That's good. Okay, they call it the upside down face. And so the use 45% say it's sarcasm, smiling through pain, passive aggression, and same as the regular smiley face. So that's how people are using it. Number 5. I'm
Darling?
sure you guys have seen the talk about this one.
No.
Gust
I
of
don't
wind.
know.
It is dashing away.
Yeah.
And so
Oh, I was going to say farting.
that's Ron. That's the one that a lot of people kind of use that for or think it is about. So, all right, number 6.
Well, it's got the
I don't
Ukrainian
know.
colors.
I've seen that one, but I don't know what it's for.
Dismay.
They call it the fearful face.
Fearful face. Huh.
And so you can see most people use it as a shock thing. I got to tell you, I've never used this emoji in my life.
Never seen it. either.
I could see the sickness thing, by the way. That one kind of makes sense to me a little bit. I don't know. All right, number 7.
I'm invisible. Persevering face.
Yeah, that surprised me when I saw the title of this. And so you could see, like, honestly, the frustration, cringe, helplessness, sad, those things that they list there, I would never think for using that. So that was a new one to me.
For sure.
Where do you find these emoji titles? Apple lists them?
This article went out and they researched. I pulled all this from this article.
It's
But
crying.
there's also, I believe, an emoji dictionary, and there's a lot of places you can find this stuff. Anybody have a guess for this one?
sad
Runny
story.
nose. Runny nose.
Runny nose.
You know what? I think this one.
These are backwards.
These are backwards now that I look at them. Yeah, I put these in backwards. I apologize, guys. So that makes more sense because I did this like a month and a half ago now. This was for my May stuff.
Does
yeah,
it matter if they're backwards? That don't change the meaning, does it?
Well, the title is dotted.
the title obviously does. I mean, I guess you can use it however you want to use it, but it makes more sense, And now that I saw that, I'm like, yeah, they're backwards. And so, like I said, it's been so long since I did this. All right, number 9. Anybody ever seen this one before?
Somebody's squashing her head.
Is she a
Yeah,
vulgar?
a head massage.
Oh, headache. Sleepy face.
I hope I didn't have that one backwards. Yeah, those are backwards too. I don't know how these last ones got messed up. Okay, well, flip-flop those two. Yeah, it's supposed to be a person getting a massage. And then the other
That makes
one,
sense. Yeah.
number 10, though, I've never thought of it as a sleepy face. I go along with those people who say like sick or disgusted is how I've always used it. Kind of like kind of thing like a little kid will do.
Yeah, I can see that.
So anyway, so those are from their surveys, those are the 10 most confusing ones. It was like a list of 25. Anyway, I thought that was kind of
I have
fun.
a comment about all of this. If the emoji is confusing like this, it's not very valuable as a communication tool.
I agree with that.
I don't disagree with you saying, Terry, but I would say there are a lot of people that use them quite often. And especially, younger people. So, make of it what you will. I don't think I will use them occasionally, but I don't use them a ton. But I would say that
I meant my remark for the ones that have meanings that people disagree on. That If you know about these particular ones, we probably don't want to use these emojis because our message may not get through the way we intend when people disagree on their meanings.
yeah,
Terry's spot on. When you have multiple definitions for a face, it means not much to anyone particularly.
well, and I think that's
a
why
little bit of something to a lot of different people. It's a useless face.
that's why this company did this survey, because they were finding that, there's a lot of confusion about what emojis are used. And so they were, trying to see what people thought. And as you can see, there is a lot of disagreement about a lot of these.
Well, a corollary is if there's a lot of disagreement, it really doesn't matter much what you do put up there. People misunderstand it or they don't really pay attention.
I would say that with a lot of text messaging, period, though, even without emojis. I think because you're not talking to somebody, you're not actually seeing their face. So I think very often there are misjudgments based on text, conversations. And especially if you think about, I see this all the time over the years from teaching with my kids. There's a lot that goes on via text and social media that gets very misinterpreted. And, frankly, they're not very good at communicating face to face because so much of it is done this way. And there can be a lot of miscommunication, a lot of misinterpretations.
Well, there's a lot of shortcuts they use that don't mean the same thing or don't know what they mean. You see these letters, everybody uses those.
Yeah.
And they don't put periods at the end of sentences. They don't put capitals where they should be.
Yeah.
No paragraphs. Yeah,
It can make a big difference.
Oh, it can make a difference in how you interpret it. Yeah.
Sure.
I have a little
I-
trouble with the ones that they've selected to look for meanings for. I don't know anyone who uses any of these. Very rarely would they use any of these that are choices. People use the smiley face stuff or hearts and thumbs up. That's about it for.
To that, I would say that I probably use about half of these, maybe.
Really?
And I think, again, I also think younger age groups use more and more of this stuff.
Well, don't you think some of the emoji meaning comes through in the context of what you're using it with? Like that sad one with a tear. If somebody told me about something that happened bad in their family or something, and I sent that, I think they'd get it that I'm sad about what happened.
Yeah, you would hope, and again, I think typically people are only going to use emojis with people that they probably know pretty well. I don't know. All right.
Can I
Anyway,
ask a question? What does
Sure.
the emoji mean that has the praying hands? I thought it meant that if I ask you can you send me the presentation slides for this meeting? And then I put the praying hands. Aren't I communicating to you that I'm begging you to give me the presentation slides?
I've always thought that meant thank you.
Yeah,
That's what I
I would
thought.
have
Thank
thought
you.
that it was literally I'm praying for you or I'm thankful is how I think of it.
Yes.
No, but if I am asking you for the presentation slides for this GAMUG meeting, and I end that phrase with the praying hands emoji.
Thank you for sending it.
No, you didn't give them to me yet. I'm wanting you to give me the presentation slides for the meeting. So I'm asking you, would you please send me the presentation slides for the meeting?
I'm thanking ahead of time.
It's like a begging emoji.
Tammy's
Is it
right.
begging or is it thank you?
That's a classic, hands together as a classic submission of a request. Please, will you do it? And a slight bow. So she's spot on with that. That's exactly what it means.
Well, and here's the thing with emojis, though, they can be interpreted differently. Like I wouldn't have thought of that, but what you guys are both saying is very valid and very true. So I really think it's just how you interpret emojis. And that's some of the problem with some of them is that not everybody interprets them the same way.
Which goes to another issue with emojis or many of these shortcuts, which is a paucity of skill in communication.
Sure.
Actually saying clearly what you mean when you mean it.
Yeah.
And getting rid of ambiguity, getting rid of confusion. You're using symbolism that is confusing to large numbers of people. It's clearly ineffective communication. It's useless and a waste of time. If you say this is very important, please send it. It is important to me. Tammy will get them sent to her.
I feel like that if I send the message saying, can you please give me the presentation slides for the meeting? And then if I add the praying hands showing that I'm begging you for them, then maybe am I being rude to you?
I wouldn't think of you being rude to me. And I'd probably be kind of, again, I wouldn't have interpreted that emoji that way, but in your message, you're saying, hey, would you please send these to me? So I wouldn't even need the emoji. I would have just said, okay, sure. I'll send you the slides.
That's why I'm thinking the emoji is probably rude, because if I add that, not only am I asking you to send me the slides, I am also sending you a pictorial indicating that I'm begging you for the slides.
Right. I would say though, again, I'm going to go back to what I said before, is that our age groups probably don't use these as much or stick with the very common ones. Whereas what I see is younger age groups, teenagers, 20 somethings, 30 somethings tend to use this stuff a lot more and a lot more varied than what a lot of us would use these as. And to speak to what Lyman said, I think our younger age groups have a very serious problem with communication skills, because so much of it is done through electronic devices versus face-to-face and vocal communication.
Society at large, what are we going to do about that? Because it's going to cause communications to go down the hole. And when they go down the hole, we won't get along.
Well, what we're going to do about it, that's a really good question. But yeah, it's a problem. I mean, I see it. And that's one of the reasons in my classes over the years, I've made my students do a lot of presentations, and I've told them, you've got to learn how to get your information across to people. And then I have kids that'd be like, I don't want to have to present. I'm too anxious. I don't like having to do this. And I'm like, I get it. It's not always comfortable having to present to people, but it's a skill that's really important. So it's something I always emphasize. But yeah, it's a real problem in our society. All right, I'm going to move on here. I thought this was a very interesting graphic, worldwide mobile data pricing. And it's almost shocking how much we're actually paying in the United States, like the US and Canada, compared to the rest of the world for mobile data. So I'll give you guys a second just to look at that.
That's amazing.
Sorry about
there
this. When I judge skydiving competitions internationally, I always get laughed at about how ridiculously expensive our mobile plans are.
Oh, they are, without a doubt.
Yeah.
You can see it right here. I mean, it's spelled out right here for you.
Could be
So-
could be the Falkland Islands, $38.45.
Or curiously, South Korea, which you would think would be very economically structured.
Yeah, and I just think a lot of it is, you know, I in a way, I think in a way of it is, it's a lot of the economy and the way the, you know, society works in some ways.
Probably also has a lot to do with government subsidies.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, for sure.
Well, and government regulation. I know like in France, there's a lot of regulation of that whole thing, where in this country, there's like none. So they can
Is
charge
there
whatever they can charge you.
Is there a qualitative component to this, like dollars per mile of communication wire laid, or of online availability, or quality of transmission, or something that would, I mean, Russia might be 48 cents because they got really crappy stuff, and you know, they just throw things down and don't build anything into it.
I bet there's a lot of places in Russia that you can't get any mobile data anyway. Like
You know,
probably further
Lyman,
back the country.
Lyman, to answer that question, I would say that, is that here? No, I just came across this and thought it was kind of interesting for a quick share. My
Right.
guess is there have been studies that have done that, and just what you're saying, that have gone deeper with this and brought some of that stuff in. You know, I'm sure you could probably do some research and find those studies out there to put more meaning to this and have a better understanding. But I agree. Some of these places that are kind of backwaters, and, you know, you look at some of these places in Africa, well, you may not have to pay much, but my guess is good luck trying to get signals in a lot of these areas, you know? So I just thought it was kind of an interesting graphic to look at and think about. I'm like, I'd be willing to swap with Israel's price there.
Yeah, no kidding.
I came across this, and this was going to be for our April meeting, hence the April 12th history there. And I thought this was a really interesting story. And I don't know if you guys have heard about this before. So Apple had a third co-founder, a guy who they worked with at Atari that Steve Wozniak worked with, named Ron Wayne. And so on April 12th, 1976, he decided he wanted to get out of the business, and he cashed in his Apple shares for $800. So I'll just read it to you real quick. Wayne, who owns a 10% stake in the company, throws in the towel after worrying he doesn't have the time or energy to properly invest in Apple. He later receives an extra $1,500 check to seal the deal. When he cashes it, he loses out on an investment that could have been worth billions. Now, I have to figure it out, but I don't know what 10% of stake in Apple these days would be worth, but it'd be a lot. He said, I was 40 and these kids were in their 20s. Wayne told Call the Mac decades later, referring to Wozniak and Steve Jobs. They were whirlwinds. It was like having a tiger by the tail. If I'd stayed with Apple, I probably would have wound up the richest man in the cemetery. Wayne made several contributions to Apple. He drew the company's first logo, a woodcut style depiction of Sir Isaac Newton sitting beneath a tree with a solitary apple dangling over his head. That's the logo there. And I know I've seen it before, so some of you may have seen that as well.
Yeah.
So skipping down a paragraph, Wayne also wrote up the first contract in Apple history, codifying what all three co-founders would do. Wozniak would manage electrical engineering, Jobs tackled marketing, and Wayne would oversee mechanical engineering and documentation. He described Wozniak as the most gracious man I've ever met in my life. His personality was contagious. Wayne found Jobs tougher to deal with. No surprise there, by the way. He said he was a very focused fellow, Wayne told me. You never wanted to be between him and where he wanted to go, or he'd find footprints on your forehead. To put it simply, if you had your choice between Steve Jobs and an ice cube, you'd nuzzle up to the ice cube for warmth. That's what it took for him to turn Apple into what it became. To Wayne's absolute credit, he never showed any sign of regretting his decision. When Apple went public in December 1980, both Jobs and Woz became instant millionaires. Wayne fared less financially, but got on with his life without complaining. The reason I didn't is very simple, Wayne said. Should I make myself sick over the whole thing? In addition to everything else that's going on, it didn't make any sense. Just pick yourself up and move on. I didn't want to waste my tomorrows bemoaning my yesterdays. Does this mean I'm unemotional? I don't feel the pain? Of course not, but I handle it by going on to the next thing. That's all any of us can do. Years later, after Jobs returned to Apple and started to turn it around, he invited Wayne to attend a presentation in San Francisco showing off some new Macs. Wayne received first-class plane tickets, and Jobs' chauffeur met him at the airport. Apple put Wayne up in a luxury room at the Mark Hopkins Hotel. At the conference, Jobs, Wozniak, and Wayne ate a long lunch at Apple cafeteria and reminisced about old times. So I thought I'd share that with you guys. I just thought it was an interesting story, and it was like the date in history for Apple was when we were going to be presenting last month. So, but I thought it was kind of an interesting story about him cashing in for $800.
Doesn't it seem a little hard to believe, though, that he had no regrets?
And maybe time has mellowed him, you know.
Well, I think it's what you say when you don't want to sound like an idiot. What you did.
Yeah. All right. Father's Day gift idea. I switched these around, so this said number 2 instead of 1. Well, Father's Day this week. So if you have a Mac nerd in the family, you can get them the wallet for Mac nerds. It's actually made from premium leather, and it looks like a new folder icon from Mac OS. And it's 3 pockets for carrying cards, cash, and coins. And it costs $49. So there you go. If you know somebody that would like that, there's the gift for you. Father's gift idea. This should be number 2. The other one should have been number 1. Apple themed pillows, blankets, and shirts. So I came across this company, throwboy.com, and you can see they have all kinds of Apple themed pillows and blankets and stuff like that. So, you know, maybe good for the home office. I don't know. All right. Don't know if anybody saw this story out there on social media. What happens when an iPhone falls 14,000 feet?
Oh my God.
So I'll read this to you, and then I'm going to play the video here. Skydiver Hatton Smith, aka Captain Rum Coffee, posted a video on TikTok with the title, "What happens when you leave your iPhone in your pocket when you go skydiving?" In the short video, you can see Smith and some friends jump out of an airplane. Right after Smith goes through the door, you can see his iPhone fly out of his jacket pocket and sail off behind him. Right away, the video cuts to Smith and others on the ground dislodging the iPhone from the earth and finding it amazingly undamaged and in working order. Two
Wow.
factors seem to contribute to that. One, the iPhone landed in a soft, grassy soil and wedged itself an inch or two in. And two, as Smith points out repeatedly in his post comments section, the handset had a protective waterproof catalyst case on it. Smith appears to give the case most of the credit. He even said the phone case company won't email me back. Blow this up so we can make a commercial for them. Several commentators suggested that his video is actually an ad. And though iPhones are pretty tough on their own, another commentator joked thusly, there is no in between with iPhone. They're either indestructible or a crack from a 1 foot drop.
On
But a
carpet.
14,000 foot drop, no problem. Other commentators cited terminal velocity, suggesting a thin, lightweight object like an iPhone won't see much difference between drops of 20 feet and thousands of feet. All right.
Tammy, you're a skydiver. What did you think of that?
You talked about terminal velocity. I guess if that phone's in free fall and if it's spinning around, its terminal velocity could be slowed down by that. And I don't know how far the phone has to fall to reach its terminal velocity. The terminal velocity is defined to be the point in time when the drag of the air on the object causes the person or device to stop accelerating towards the earth. So, you know, like skydiver falls on his belly about 120 miles an hour and they don't fall any faster. Now, if I go into a stand-up position, I would fall a lot faster. So I guess it depends. I wonder how the phone was tumbling. Is it possible that a phone could end up falling with its one edge down and be stabilized like that? Or is it going to be like just flipping as it's coming down?
I think it would flip.
Yeah, well, let me show you the video here and you can see a little bit of it.
I thought they would try to catch up with it. That would be interesting.
What happens when you leave your phone in your pocket when you go skydiving?
There goes.
It's like Excalibur.
Take a picture of it.
Completely unreal. Let's go.
So that was the video that was posted on social media.
It landed on a dog.
Wonder if it landed close to where they landed. That'd be remarkable.
Yeah, well, they didn't tell you that, but you know, but I'm sure that soft ground probably helps.
It's kind of boggy looking ground.
Yeah.
That helped.
I know,
Also,
but
I think that the pilot is probably legally responsible. If that phone were to have hit somebody in the head, that's a pilot who could probably end up losing their license, not to mention how badly they would be sued.
Huh.
Well, yeah, they could have killed somebody.
Sure.
What happens when you
All right. And the tweet of the day, Apple Vision Pro. I'll just let you guys read that for yourself.
Oh my God.
I thought that was clever and was a nice segue into, you know, stuff that we'll be talking about here this evening. So there you go, Glenn's goodies. Although, before we move on to our next segment, my father, Don here, wanted to, I think, ask a question. You still there?
It wasn't a question. You all started talking about the Missouri ID. So immediately I went to my iPhone and loaded it. And lo and behold, I got it in there right away. The only problems you have, it makes you use your nose to move some dots in the screen.
I tried it myself.
It actually
No.
has, huh?
I tried it myself. No.
I got it done.
Well, good for you. I just couldn't get it done. I'm sorry.
I got mine done, other than the nose problem. Thank you.
I don't get it. You had to use your nose to move some dots around.
That's
What
pretty much it,
happens
buddy.
is, as you go through the process, it basically says, run the dots to like number 1 using your nose. You get the hang of it. And then when you get to 1, you got to go to 2. When you get to 2, you got to go to 3.
Is
I
it
guess-
like, because it's doing a face ID of you? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it's doing.
Oh, okay.
It's like doing your fingerprint.
Yes.
I thought at the end it would just go, ha ha, you did a stupid thing.
Anyway, I thought I'd just add that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks, Don.
I thought it was a variation on, click on the school buses or the motorcycles. and something.
Yeah.
That everybody hates doing.
Yeah.
My favorite, this is when I was a kid. I mean, basically, kid would be pointing up, said, look up. Kid would then point down and say, look down. Kid would say, look sideways. And of course, my food was stolen.
Yeah. You were one of those kids.
Okay, we're gonna do, I guess it'll be our final thing tonight. Oh, don't forget, after this is done, we will be drawing names for the Apple gift cards. Okay,
Could we
So-
welcome another guest before we proceed? This gentleman, Bryce Bagwell, welcome this evening. Glad to have you.
Hello, Bryce.
Thank you, guys. Yeah.
How
Thanks for
did
having me.
you come across us?
My wife saw a post on Facebook that said this group existed, and she sent me a link and said, "This sounds like you." So here I am.
well, good.
Very
Welcome
good.
tonight.
That's a shame.
You're much too young for us, though, but that's all right.
You're too young for us.
Well, I'm glad I already had the required hairstyle.
Oh, you're fit right in that regard. We'll be
Yeah,
in
I
touch.
didn't even realize it, but that's true, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll be in touch with you, see how involved you want to get in membership and so on.
Great, thanks.
Okay, what we're gonna finish with tonight is about the WWDC, which was last week. And a lot of stuff was presented. We won't be going through every single bit of it, but a few of the things. So take a look. Let me see how to figure out here. Share screen, okay. Are you seeing that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Full screen now, it's okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so I thought it was interesting that they started off with Dream It, Chase It, and Code It, because they were talking about coding and all the new things that are coming out. But anyway, that's why I put that in there. This is toward the very end. It was almost just over 2 hours, the whole presentation. And at the very end, Cook came on, and I think he was really delighted to be able to come out with the old Jobs line of, we have one more thing, and that was the Vision Pro that they presented. So this is a little video that kind of is a commercial.
We're not really hearing the sound, Ron.
I'm sorry, what?
Not hearing
We're
any
not really hearing the
sound.
sound.
You're not hearing the sound.
Nope.
Okay. I don't know what to do about that.
Oh, boy.
Just a second.
Make up your own.
Well,
Well, it looks like.
the other thing, okay, hold on. I know one other thing I can do. It's going to be kind of messing up our time here a bit, but I have to go to where Glenn originally sent these out to me.
Yeah, unfortunately, you have these little problems on Zoom sometimes.
Well, yeah, because I tested this last week when I put this together. And of course, I was on Zoom, but it was on my own computer. So I heard it just fine, but now it won't play for you guys. So give me a second here.
How to kill all mosquitoes in the area in 90 seconds. This simple but brilliant trick you can do tonight to
What was that?
We can hear that one.
I want to know how to kill mosquitoes.
I like it.
Well, if the ad worked, I would think the video would work.
You hearing that?
No, you just get a real kind of muffled thing here.
So much.
Close.
Looks nice.
Yeah, I
Well,
think
it
it's a little
has a
something.
really nice price too.
Yeah, I mean, basically the price is just plain outrageous to me.
Hold on a second.
Whoa,
Okay.
whoa.
If you
Wait,
consider the
wait.
technology in it though, I mean, it's,
I don't really think the price is that outrageous considering what the technology that's
inside,
gone
yeah.
into it actually.
all the cameras involved there, the sensors, the
Yeah, it's an amazing piece of
technology, yes.
technology, but
Useful? Well, I don't know, but pretty.
okay, let me see if I get back to this. Oh, this is another video. So
Ron, try, Bryce put something in the chat there. Maybe try and see if that helps.
sharing audio device and being able to be done by locating the share toolbar, clicking more and then selecting share sound. Well,
I'm just curious what's different about the way you're doing it versus the way, because you guys could hear my videos just fine, couldn't you?
yeah. So I don't know what the difference is.
Yeah. When you go to share your screen, there's a checkbox in the bottom left-hand corner, and if you turn that on, it should share whatever output your computer sound is as well. But it comes up when you first go share screen, and it gives you which part of your screen you want to share, which app.
I'm not
Ron,
sure.
does-
Do I have to do this before I do share?
Yes, right when you now say share, it should pop up and it'll be on the bottom left-hand corner.
Okay.
You'll say share sound, and then you'll pick whatever app you're sharing with us.
Oh, I see. Okay. Let's try that. I would say I have to install a Zoom audio device. Please restart your audio share.
Yeah, the first time you do it, if it isn't installed to do audio sharing, you have to share that. You have to install, run a little installer that'll let you do it going forward.
Oh, Christ. I'm sorry.
It's the opposite of it just works. If I didn't know better, Microsoft. I would, if I didn't know better, I'd say Microsoft. Yeah. If I didn't know better, I'd say Microsoft built Zoom.
Yeah.
But Teams is even worse.
You can sure tell that Apple didn't.
Yep. You could also just send us a link and we could watch it on our end and then come back together and talk about it if it's really important.
Okay,
for
I'm
everyone
not
else to
getting
see.
it to work, so, well, let's try it. Untry this one thing and we'll see what happens. And if not, I'm just going to play the video like I did the other one. Okay.
T3K style. We'll just mock it as it plays.
You give up?
And would it be helpful? I could share those videos from my end. Oh, we're here.
Are you hearing that?
Yes.
Introducing Apple Vision Pro. The era of spatial computing is here.
Are you seeing it too?
Yes.
Okay.
When you put on
Whoops, sorry. Oh, that was dumb. I clicked on it. Okay, let's try again.
Oh, boy.
Hit the play button up at the
Thank you, Ron.
Yeah,
Wow.
I thought an interesting line that Tim Cook showed was, the Mac introduced us to personal computing, the iPhone to mobile computing, and this new device to spatial computing. Now, I also kind of laughed when I think it was John Connor said he called it a nerd helmet. So there's two ends there, extremely expensive, true.
I was copying Mac Break Weekly.
That said that.
So blame that on Leo Laporte and his friends.
Well, the price is kind of high to imagine, but the technology is also kind of astounding too. And my guess is this is the first iteration, and as they manufacture more of these, maybe the price will over time come down, but who knows?
That's
also
historically
interesting.
true. Electronics, the technology improves and the price goes down.
That's
So
true. It always has in the past. So we'll have to see.
Don't be the first to buy anything unless you just have
I would think in a year it might be not much more expensive than your Mac Studio you guys have.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. It's
I
true.
would spend 2,000 for it easy.
The next thing that we'll just mention here is iOS 17. And there's lots of new things in it. And so until it actually comes out in the fall, it's hard for us to give you details about it. But right now, what we'll do is show you this video, and hopefully it'll work.
We're excited to kick things off with
Are
this
you
morning's
hearing that?
announcements. Today, we're going to make some of our biggest announcements ever at WWDC.
Our next release, iOS 17, delivers more expressive communication, simplified sharing, more intelligent input, and all new experiences for your iPhone. Let's begin with some major updates to 3 apps: Phone, FaceTime, and Messages. We're giving you a brand new way to express yourself with personalized contact posters. Contact posters feature beautiful treatments for both photos and memoji, paired with eye-catching typography. And in Chinese and Japanese, the new layout with vertical text looks incredible. It's also part of your contact card, so you'll have a consistent look across the places where you communicate and share. Customizing your poster works a lot like personalizing your lock screen. The possibilities are endless. And for developers, this all works with CallKit. So posters will appear for calls placed via third-party VoIP apps too. Live voicemail. When someone calls you and leaves a message, you'll see a live transcription in real time as they speak. You'll see the voicemail right on your screen, so you can decide whether to step out and take the call. There's another type of call getting a big update: FaceTime. Now, when you call someone on FaceTime and they aren't available, you'll be able to leave a message. You can record a message so that they can enjoy it later.
Messages is the way we stay connected with the people who matter most. To start, let's quickly cover some key improvements that make using Messages even faster and more convenient. Search is more powerful and precise with the addition of search filters. So now you can start a search and then add additional terms to narrow the results to find exactly what you're looking for. A new catch-up arrow in the top right of your conversation lets you jump to the first message you haven't seen. We've also made replying inline faster than ever. Just swipe to reply on any bubble. when you get an audio message but you aren't able to listen right away, they're now transcribed so you can read them in the moment and listen later. Location sharing now lets you keep track of your friend's location directly in the conversation. Check-in. You can start check-in with a family member or friend to let them know when you get home safely. As soon as you arrive, check-in automatically detects that you're home and lets your friend know. And if you don't respond, it can automatically share useful information such as your current location and the route you took. And they'll also be able to see your battery level and cell service status so they know if you might be able to take their call. We also have an updated design for how you get to all your iMessage apps. With just a tap of this new plus button, you'll see all the things you send the most, like your photos, audio messages, and location. And when you swipe up, you'll see all your iMessage apps there too. Last year, we introduced the ability to lift a subject from the background of your photos, and now those subjects can be turned into stickers. When I tap on the Live Photos tab, I see all of the live photos that will make great animated stickers. Peel and stick, like this.
AirDrop. We're expanding how you can use AirDrop to share in all new ways. Name drop. With Name Drop, you can just bring your phones close together. You'll see the same contact poster we talked about for phone calls, and you can easily choose the phone numbers and email addresses you want to share along with it. And share them just like that. You can use Name Drop with an iPhone and an Apple Watch too. When you want to share the stunning photos you took on your latest adventure, again, just bring your phones close together. You can now leave AirDrop range and your content will continue to send securely in full quality over the internet. You can also bring your devices together to instantly kick off a shared activity using SharePlay. Standby. Just by turning iPhone on its side while charging, you get a new full screen experience with glanceable information designed to be viewed at a distance. Swipe up to choose from a range of beautiful clock styles. Swipe to the side and you can look back on your favorite moments in photos. With a quick swipe on each widget stack, you can see the current weather, home controls, or your favorite third-party widgets. At night, when you're charging iPhone, Standby adapts to low light, and that's iOS 17.
So did you see anything there you thought might like? I saw several things that I'm very interested in seeing how they'll work in real life.
I used an early version of Name Drop around the year 2000 with when several of us working at CompUSA had Palm PDAs. You could bring them close to each other and exchange ownership information, names, phone numbers, that sort of thing. It was an infrared connection that they made. You brought them about 2-3 inches apart and it would just transfer the information.
I think that's a cool feature. I like the voicemail transcriptions. I thought that was cool. Not that I use stickers, but I thought the live kind of stickers thing was cool. I also love the FaceTime message stuff. I think that's a neat idea. I know, we use FaceTime a lot with people, and I think that's kind of a cool thing when you can't get a hold of them.
For sure. And notice too, up in the upper left-hand corner there, it says, "Hey Siri." You won't have to say "hey" anymore. You just saying Siri will call her up.
But you can change that in your preferences in your settings to require the "hey" before Siri if you want to.
By the way,
these things are customizable.
I just would like to mention that my watch thought you were talking. Siri on my watch thought you were talking.
I know sometimes my Siri on my watch will pop up and say, "What can I help you with?" And I say, "Go away, I didn't call you." It just does that sometimes. And
I used to have problems sometimes when I was lecturing because I like to talk with my hands. And next thing I know, Siri is chiming in when I ask the question to my class, and Siri's chiming in with the answer.
Trying to help you with the answer. By the way, notice too, when I post this on our website, at the bottom is a place on the Apple website. If you want lots of details about all these things I just mentioned, if you click on that and go to the Apple website, it'll give you lots of information, more details about these changes. Also, this is supposed to work with all versions of Apple or iPhone from the 10s and 10R on up to the current versions.
Yeah.
So anything before that, it won't. And it's supposed to come out sometime this fall, they say. So maybe
Okay.
by September, October, who knows?
You can run the demo or the beta now. I'm running it on my iPad and my phone, and my daughter has it on her phone as
That's
well.
cool.
Bryce,
So-
what do you think of
I
it
think
so
I'm gonna
far?
wait until it comes out in fall.
Yeah,
I'm
what do I
not a great lover of trying out beta software. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
That's
and I
just
don't
me.
do it. I don't do it on any device I make money with. But if it's just for my own entertainment, then I don't mind.
Are
And I
you,
like being able to give
what-
them the feedback.
Okay, the next thing we're going to take a little bit about is the new MacBook Air 15-inch, which this is also a video, I believe. Okay, I think it might actually be available now already. I know you could pre-order it last week. So does anybody know specifically?
I believe it is. It's also going to be my wife's next computer.
Cool.
She already has the color picked out.
Yeah, you mentioned, what's that color called?
Starlight.
Starlight. And it comes in like 4 colors, I believe.
I think that Starlight color is the same color as the metal they use on the high-end Apple Watch.
Yeah, I think it looks
Ultra.
similar at least.
I think that's their term for it. The Ultra.
You see that up the upper
Starlight.
left-hand side where it shows MagSafe? Those are the actual colors.
Yeah, it's like a little creamy silver.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see they're going back to MagSafe. I always look
Yes.
forward to that.
I love MagSafe on my MacBook Pro.
That was the only thing that I didn't like about my M1 MacBook Air. I had traded an Intel MacBook Pro for the MacBook Air, which on paper looks like it's a step down, but it really was quite a bit of a step up. And the only reason I don't have that still was because my daughter's old MacBook died and she needed something to replace it with. So I said, really, it's time for you to get Apple Silicon. And oh, gee, by the way, I can get myself an M2 MacBook Air. Ha ha ha. So I got myself a 13-inch, which for me is perfectly fine because most of the time I look at my 27-inch LG monitor. But my dear wife uses the laptop as a true laptop most of the time. So I will be replacing her 16-inch Intel MacBook Pro with the 15-inch M2 MacBook Air. And
Cool.
she's now the only bad part about it is that I checked the specs on the MacBook Pro that she's got, and it's got 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage. So that means that I can't buy the new computer for the base of $12.99. I got to fork over an extra $400 to get the extra space and storage to make it match what she's already got.
Okay. This last video is 17 Big and Little Things from the WWDC. It's just over 2 minutes. So let's take a look. Okay, these are just the last few kind of slides about other things that they talked about. The M2 Ultra chip that's out. Kind of amazing. They have an update to the Mac Studio. It'll have the M2 Max or M2 Ultra chips in them. They announced the new Mac Pro with the M2 Ultra. So that's a final update. And that means that all the computers that Apple puts out now will have Apple Silicon.
I've got a question on that M2 Pro. Isn't that just the same as the Studio, but it's got the case with the slots in it? Is that the only advantage?
From what I've been hearing, pretty much yes.
Well, if you look at this slide and then compare it to this slide, yeah, the memory is the same.
Number of cores is the same. Yeah.
But see, if you select the Studio over the Pro, then you don't get the opportunity to pay that, was it $800 or $1,000 for the wheels that are available for the Pro?
It's $400. You're
$400,
exaggerating.
sorry.
Jim.
Okay, sorry.
But you gotta need the Pro to get it. I mean, there's no reason for it.
Well, it also has slots, so it can be.
That's what I meant. The slots,
can-
yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I
add in, has 6 PCI slots. So you can add in lots of other things into it, the Mac Pro.
I'm a
iPad
video
OS.
editor. I'm a
I'm
video
sorry.
editor, so I'm a video editor, so we come from a world where we need to fiber connect to massive shared storage and stuff like that. So there definitely is a market out there that's been struggling to upgrade because they needed the slots. And I agree, the average consumer doesn't need it, but it's long overdue for the pro world for sure.
For sure.
So you gotta get one?
And it's pretty amazing that, you know, you do get the same essential power. You're just getting some flexibility. You know, the fact that they've created something you can buy at the mall that's every bit as powerful as what it takes to do 8K video editing is pretty amazing.
True.
Agreed.
iPad OS will have iPad OS 17 update too. Mac OS Sonoma, that's the new version of Mac OS that'll be out in the fall. They mentioned audio and home, some of various kind of smaller items like the AirPods.
Continuity camera on TBOS?
Right?
Whoa.
I like with you know, that you're not going to be able to do FaceTime on the Apple TV.
Oh.
By putting your phone up there next to your Apple TV so it can see you or whomever is in the room. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that all works. It should be interesting though, shouldn't it? And watchOS, which we'll talk about more next month. What new things it'll have. The claim.
Can somebody,
I'm
can
sorry.
somebody tell me how to turn down my volume?
It's the volume on your computer.
Computer?
No, I'm on my phone. I'm connected to the Zoom meeting on the phone, and I can't turn down the volume.
It's usually one of those side buttons on the left-hand side, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
The little rocker switches.
Are you saying the phone won't let you turn the volume of Zoom down?
Oh, it's only the side rocker switches will do that. If I pull down from the top to get the volume control that you touch with your finger on the face of the phone, no matter where you put that, the volume of the Zoom meeting will not change.
Did you try the little side switches?
The side switches move the volume, so
Okay, then do it that way. Okay,
I'll do it that way. But what are the rules for controlling volume on your phone?
Use the side switches except for Zoom, which has a bug.
Oh, the Zoom requires the side switches.
It might be that, yeah. So that's the last slide. So anyway, I'll stop the share.
Thank you.
By the way, as a side note, John, I did the Missouri ID thing and it worked pretty well. So I've got that on there now.
I finally got Missouri ID finally working on my phone as well.
You both had to use your nose?
I had to figure out what that was
Of course I
about.
had to
And
use
what
my
you're doing is you've got the phone in front of you and you're having to tilt your head and it's got like a target you've got to aim little dots at and you got to hold them there while the target fills up and then you're good. And it does that like 3 different times.
Yeah.
So
Do you have to already have your Missouri ID like set up with the state and everything, and then you can do that on your phone?
it asked me for my ID. I actually went and got my wallet and pulled my ID out because I wanted
Gotcha.
a picture of it, both the front and the back.
Gotcha. Because I need to do that. Cool. Thanks.
John, thanks for sharing that
Look into
with
that
us.
too, John. Thanks for telling us about that.
Yeah, now
Okay,
I just have to catch up with the rest of you. I was the first to download it and I'll be the last to actually activate it.
Hey, can I ask a quick question? Because I'm going to do a few things on the Apple Watch. Just how many people here have an Apple Watch of some kind? Okay, good. I just want to make sure as I delve into a few things, because I've kind of felt like that's something that we haven't really gotten into a lot, but I didn't know how many, people actually were using it. So,
Well, I think you can also give us reasons why people should think about getting an Apple Watch. Yeah. Okay, I don't know if you see this bag here. It's all the tickets from the past 6 months since starting in January. It's all the people who attended a meeting, and there's one ticket in here from everybody who's a member. And so I'm going to pull out 4 of these. And
Get one for Bryce?
well, he's not a current member.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's all right. Just glad to be here. Just glad to be here. Thank you for thinking of me.
But if you join we do the next one in, let's see, in December again. So,
Yeah.
and we put a ticket in for everybody who attends a meeting every month. And like I said, a ticket in for somebody, even if they never attend, but they're a member, that ticket goes in here too. So I think I've shook them up enough.
Okay.
Let's take a look. I'm not looking, so if I pull my name, it's not because I looked at them. Okay, let's see first here. Glenn H.
Ooh.
Yay.
Retirement present.
Retirement present. We'll have to see what he buys for himself.
Well, I started with a lawnmower, so this would be more fun,
Oh boy. Okay, here's the next one. Terry Cohn, or is it Kuhn? I forget how you say your last name.
Coin.
Coin. Thank you, Terry.
And thank you.
Okay, let's see the next one I pull. Robert L.
Oh my gosh.
It's the other one.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, one more ticket here. Remember that Alan will send you an email with.
Well, I'm gonna give their emails to the
That's
Apple
right.
Store.
Apple, and they'll send you the
I
thing.
never see it, guys. I don't blame me if it doesn't come in, but I never see it. They go to them.
The last one is Frank S. Frank, sure.
Oh, congratulations, Frank.
Well, everybody got one that's here. That's good.
Oh, come on now. Not everybody.
No. What I meant
Robert,
is
Everybody that
Frank,
counts.
we don't
You
have
meant
to
that
send
everybody who
notice
got
to
one is
Terry,
present.
doesn't come.
and Glenn, everybody who's present today. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we had a full house. I mean,
Yeah, as Alan explained, he will contact Apple, with your email addresses, and they will email you the $100 gift certificate or whatever, and so then you can spend it through Apple however you want.
okay.
Correct, Alan?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll try to do it tonight.
Thanks for coming tonight, guys.
Thank
I hope
you.
you found some interesting information, useful stuff. I know some of the stuff Glenn said. I want to take a look at that. He'll send me his presentation, and I'll post all that on the website, so you can delve into it any more details that you want.
And
Okay.
Bryce, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey,
Yeah,
thanks for
Brian,
having me.
Hey,
You
Bryce.
guys seem like a great group,
Welcome
very
to our little
supportive.
club.
Bryce, are you in St. Louis?
I am in St. Louis, yes.
Okay.
Cool.
Bryce,
Well,
can I
awesome.
ask you where you said it was your wife that saw the post?
Yeah, I don't know. She sent me a text while I was napping, and then I woke up and went, oh crap, they started. And so I just asked her, she said, I don't know, I was on some board and somebody said, hey, there's a St. Louis users group. And she's like, you should know about this. So I'm sorry, I can dig more and find out if you'd like.
I was just
Take your wife out for dinner.
Put some
Take your
Yeah,
wife out
exactly.
for a steak dinner.
Yep. Well, it sounds like you're a really good supportive group of people and very inquisitive, and I like all of that. So I appreciate you
That's cool.
putting up with me tonight.
That's cool.
And it's nice to go somewhere where feel like I'm the youngest. It doesn't happen very often. I'm still over 50, but it just doesn't happen very often.
We've known each other since about a long time. Everybody, Glenn House is the other young one, and he's getting ready to retire. So
Oh,
Alan, I am
dream,
retired.
I dream of it.
Hey, Ron, if I can stick in one more plug or a little announcement,
Sure,
tomorrow
Gary.
night is the St. Louis Unix user group meeting, and boy, by all coincidence, the topic just happens to be what I saw at the WWC or DC last week. So it's Scott Graneman, who is a frequent speaker at the Unix group, and he wasn't actually out there, but he was reading and watching everything he could last week. So if anybody is interested in getting another dose of similar material, Scott will have his view of it tomorrow night.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
All right.
Okay.
Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
Gary.
All right.
Okay, everybody. Have a good week, good month.
Thank you.
Thanks for
See you all
coming.
next month.
Thank you.
Thank
right.
you all.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Send me the list,
All right.
Ron.
Good night.
Right.